And all right, edit. Interesting that I see that.
It says we are live.
Yeah, we are live.
At least in a couple places. I like to say hello immediately to the people that are coming in, almost like an usher. You know, welcome. Here are your seats. Come on down and take a seat. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. We're back. Yeah, and YouTubers are in here early. Apologies for the mix up yesterday but we were going Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I know several people were here yesterday, and until you hear otherwise, moving forward, we will be Tuesdays, Thursdays. I think that'll be our schedule going through the summer at least until we get to camp, and then we'll probably, if Nick can put up with me that long, then we'll probably go 5 days a week again, or at least 4 days a week. But we'll see. But for now, Broncos for breakfast. Welcome in, and we are Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm Scott Kennedy. This is Nick Kendell. And there's always something going on in Broncos country. And Broncos country is not just a country; it's nationwide. So welcome to our European visitors. We've had some Ireland people, some UK people come in.
Germany, Turkey.
Germany, that's right. So welcome. Broncos country is worldwide.
Absolutely, guys. Welcome into Broncos for breakfast. Going to be going forward this summer, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, God's time. Make sure you guys follow the mothership at Mile High Huddle. That can do us a heck of a lot of good. If you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. If you're joining us on Facebook, click those thumbs up. We got people starting to trickle in here, but if you're joining us, YouTube, whatever, just make sure you go do those things. You can help a lot. Want to say hello to our early birds in the chat, the coffee getters. Thank you guys for picking it up this morning. We got Mark Anthony in here saying we back with the cute golden retriever puppy there. We got Cam Wirtz in the house. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here this morning. Cam, we are glad that you are here. Malcolm Brown is joining us as well, down in Ogden, Kansas, home of the Wildcats, and with his wild grandchildren. Malcolm, it sounds like you're having a great time down there. I'm happy for you, buddy. You got Jason O'Neill in the house as well. Hopefully you are, your arm is getting better, Jason. Good morning. I hear that a few offensive tackles will be visiting the Broncos facility. What are the chances Denver signs one or possibly two tackles in the upcoming days? So, Jason, we are going to get to that, but I wanted to make sure we said hello to you first before we got too far going. Oh, we got Mo. See those German guys. Mo Ron coming in. Guten Morgen. So I apologize for my German. One of my best friends is down in Munich, so he gives me a hard time. I give him a hard time, but good morning to you. Ann Rivera, good morning. Nick and Scott and Broncos country. Kevin Sproul in the house. CC is in the house. Speaking of the Netherlands, Albert Knoppers is in the house. Go get a seasoned vet, he says. JD is in the house. Mike Gibbons in the house. Mitch Mann in the house. Also, congratulations to Nick and Scott. Chelsea made it into the final. Did not expect that to happen. I was going to ask, how are you doing this morning? You got to be flying pretty darn high.
Buzzing, but it only lasts for a little while, and then I start worrying about, my kids' teams. So my kids are on several different teams. Tryouts are coming up, tournaments, all kinds of stuff. Now I can enjoy it for a little while, but then I start thinking about it a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know if you are one of my favorites follows in Broncos country, works at a rival area, but that's whatever. Andrew Mason is a big Man City fan. So, and he's not the type to talk smack. So I'm really just trying to bait him into it. I'm just trying to little prods just to tease him because I know he's not going to do
that
it.
One's it's tough to talk smack against the Manchester City team right now. Yes. They're really good.
Yes. But this is my chance too. And I'm not going to be super, I'm expecting Man City to win. Sorry guys. But I'm not going to be super hurt if they win. So this is my chance just to prod him a little bit, just to give him a hard time. This whatever. We got Kareem in the house as well. But let's get into this. Yeah, buenos dias. I'm Baxter. I don't speak Spanish. But before we get going too far here, we got to get into it. Was Jason O'Neill talking here? So I'll let you lead this off, Scott, since you want to do a little bit more of the hosting here today.
Yeah, I think when we start talking, Nick and I are interchangeable when it comes to the different things we can do here, and when it comes to the Broncos, Nick's the expert. I'll get there as I become more familiar with the team, and I'll watch every Broncos game this year. But Nick right now is for sure the expert. But Jason says, good morning. I hear that a few offensive tackles will be visiting the Broncos facility. That's probably a good place to be, especially when you're under contract. What are the chances Denver signs one or possibly two tackles in the upcoming days? Now, we know at least two have been talked about, Bobby Massey and Dennis Kelly. What's the latest with those guys?
It does sound like the Broncos are vetting a good amount of offensive tackles right now, but really nice. I mean, I guess fortunately for the Broncos, there are a lot of options on the market right now. You're not going to get a true difference maker, because if they were a true difference maker at the offensive tackle position, guess what? They would be signed. And I know a lot of people are pining for Mitchell Schwartz as well, who has been really good in his career. But to me, if Mitchell Schwartz was healthy, he would not be here right now with how good he's been, right? Like, can he even pass a physical? Those are things that come in my mind when I think about this. But there are a few offensive tackles out here. The Broncos sound like they're going to be able to save $10 million, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I guess that's what the podcast is for. We'll get to that.
Can. Yeah, we can. I want to talk about replacements first, and then I want to get into what do you do with James? Because it's not as cut and dry as, no pun intended, but it's not as cut and dry as it sounds like. Yeah. When it's that easy. And what do we know? What do we know about right now with June 1st? I know I wouldn't be in a hurry to get anybody right now, because we know there's going to be more people on the market on June 1st, right?
Yeah, there'll be more people on the market. Also, a lot of these veterans, that they are veterans, these guys don't really want to be involved in OTAs, as bad as that sounds, right? Like, they don't want to have what happened with James happen with them. So you might not see them sign right away anyways. And there's plenty of options out there. They're not needle movers, so to speak, but you obviously have Bobby Massey and Dennis Kelly, who both were okay last year, probably better than what you saw from DeMar Dotson. DeMar Dotson is still out there as well if you want to bring in somebody who was okay last year, a good pass blocker, but really struggles with the run game, and the screen game is non-existent to the right side with him because he just can't move the same. But if you're bringing in an offensive tackle, their number one function needs to be that pass blocking, so he can do that. And there's some talk about Charles Leno. There's Ricky Wagner. So there are options out there. There's no need to rush. I think the Broncos, and we've seen it from George Paton all offseason, he's patient, maybe even patient to a fault. The only time he hasn't been patient is when Kyle Fuller was released, and like 10 minutes later he was a Bronco, but that one was just obvious. But overall, I mean, I think they can sit back, wait how it goes. Maybe even you see Calvin Anderson out there, and maybe that changes your formula. I see some people in the chat saying Anderson is somebody you can sleep on. He's been in this facility for 3 years now working with Mike Munchak. Maybe he is the guy. I have my doubts, but maybe he is the guy. So that kind of changes your formula as well once you start to see these guys come in and practice. But there are options out there, and I think Peyton's going to be very, very, very patient with this. There's no need to rush. So
want to say hello to Kyle Wielden, dropping a super saying, "Good morning, guys. Love the show for my drive into work." That was the whole idea. I'm glad it's working. When Chad and I started talking about what could we do here, I was like, well, listen, this is the best time for me before, family stuff starts taking over with all my kids' sports. A good daytime would work great for me doing. And then Nick came up with the idea of Broncos for breakfast. So I love it. So the whole idea was maybe we can get you guys in on drive time at 8 Central, and it'll take off. So appreciate the super and the good words. And I'm glad that we're helping making your drive a little easier. Another comment a little farther down, in the shop with Willie, he says, I wanted to cut James when it was a cap hit. Have you ever been dating a girl or a guy, just a significant other, and something happens to him? You wanted to break up forever, and then something bad happens to him, and now you're really going to look like the asshole if you break up with him? Like, man, dang it. I should have done this 2 weeks ago. Why did I wait? So in the shop with Willie, this might be the case, because what do you do with James? Guys get cut all the time. I mean, it's ridiculous. And the fact that the media still holds the water for these franchises saying, oh, well, he's got a contract, he shouldn't be holding out. BS. These are 1-year renewable deals if it's in favor of the club. That's it. Every contract is a 1-year option, every single one of them. As long as it's good for the franchise, then the next option will be. Otherwise, these guys are going to get cut. So, but now this is national news. Now every player in the NFL and potential player in the NFL is watching this. Now, if you cut this guy after he gets hurt working out, trying to better himself at the advice, now you've got trouble. You've got a problem. I don't think you can just flat out cut this guy, because this goes beyond a little bit of, well, this was just a normal salary cap hit. This was somebody that was trying to work out and hurt himself, trying to get better for your team. And now you might have a little trouble on the recruitment front. Money says everything. Money's the final word. But if you're between, if you're trying to recruit a guy as a free agent and you're between another team and Juwan James is getting in their ear, you've got trouble. So I don't think it's as simple as just a straight cut. I think there's got to be some sort of settlement here where you've got James on board. What do you think right now, Nick?
I think this situation, if James had been in the facility a lot and part of this team, then that would be more of the situation. But I got to say, from everything I've gathered, James has been pretty distant with this team and his teammates overall. He's only played, I think, 36 snaps in 2 years. And last year, not only did he opt out because of what's going on in the world, which is right. Sure, he had that option, but he was also apparently very disengaged and disinterested with the teammates as well. And even some of the offensive linemen, including Garrett Bowles, had said, like, we know James is coming back, but he's going to have to re-earn our trust. And he said that was unprompted. And typically you don't get quotes from the offensive line. They're pretty much stoic. Don't get away from media. So to get that from James, I think typically you would see this be a situation where like the players would rally around him. But you haven't seen Broncos players in social media or anything really just like say put on any pressure on the Broncos.
Well, and that's big. You've got to go to your, if I'm a general manager there, if I'm Peyton, I had to think twice. I'm going to say, did I get it right? Or it's not Patton. I'm going to mess it up. So
you're right.
It's Peyton.
Yep.
There's one T there, vowels, all this kind of stuff. I would seek out some of the leaders on the team and ask what they think. This is what we want to do. Can you help us with the PR aspect of this? Because right now, the Broncos have so much cap room that they can afford to take the hit and make this cut. And they can, if it was just a straight cut. So getting back to in the shop with Willie's point, I wanted to cut this guy when it was a cap hit. We had room. Well, now, holy cow. This is a gift from a dollars and cents and personnel point of view, but you're still dealing with human beings and the fallout that comes out from that. So that's what you got to be a little careful of as far as I'm concerned. But from what y'all are saying, this it's an easy decision. You've got the easiest opt out in the world. The NFL's got your back. They're saying, listen, this is what happened, and this is why we told the Players Association what you're doing is stupid.
Yep.
Come here, we've got you covered. So, I like what you're saying with that, Nick, and I agree with you. If you can get the other offensive linemen, if you can get a couple players on board to come out and say, hey, we're okay with this decision. Yeah. We know the risk when we're not here, then you're good. You're good.
And from the Broncos point of view, I'm being a outsider, so to speak, of covering the team, doesn't have I'm out in there talking to Vic Fangio every day. But the biggest thing with this is the PR spin is actually going to be a positive for the Broncos, and they can do it because they have the NFL saying that the Broncos, we warned this would happen. This was a big thing when we pushed against the NFLPA. So the Broncos can say, well, boss guy up top is saying that we need to not pay him, and it'll probably go to some sort of settlement in the courts. But I think the Broncos are going to be able to not pay that $10 million or even a small fraction of it if they do pay. You'd
have to think that there's some sort of insurance from the NFLPA as well. You'd have to be some sort of insurance on this.
Yeah.
A non-football injury, you could slip in the shower and, whatever like that. There's got to be some sort of insurance on this type of thing. This isn't something I don't know how many baseball fans we have in here or baseball fans in their late 40s like me, but Ron Gant was an Atlanta Brave and broke his leg badly jumping motorcycles. All right. Well, he got cut and they didn't have to pay him. I'm like, well, dumbass, don't go riding dirt bikes. Jeff Kent, San Francisco Giants. Same thing. I think it was a motorcycle too, broke his wrist and tried to say he slipped off his truck when he was washing it. I can't remember what happened yesterday, but I can remember stuff from 25 years ago. He tried to say, so he lied about it and they weren't, but this is a little different. And that James is like, I'm working. He was working out. You think, I don't have any reason not to believe that. So, but, again, from the PR standpoint, I think you're going to be okay. And frankly, there's enough anti-union sentiment amongst the majority of NFL fans that they're going to kind of say, ha ha.
Yeah.
This is why you shouldn't have done that to begin with. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't know. I've seen on Mile High Huddle, I was reading that, they could actually try and get back some of the signing bonus. I think that'd be a bad idea. I don't know that the Broncos would try and do something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that either. But to get that $10 million, and I think $10 million against the cap for the Broncos, and if they wait until post June 1, so June 2nd, they can actually split that salary cap, the signing bonus money over 2022 and 2021, which would be a big benefit for the Broncos. But I think this puts them either at the top or darn near the top for the most salary cap room in football with that additional $10 million. And that might be, Broncos don't need that room, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can roll it over, one, which gives you a leg up next year if you want to make some moves. Also, there's a quarterback out there that might take up some of that salary cap room. We don't want to not talk about the elephant in the room there. Curtis Everett coming in saying, hey, I heard the Packers are looking to sign another quarterback before OTAs and training camp, maybe in preparation for an Aaron Rodgers trade to the Mile High City. Thank you very much for the comment, Curtis, over on YouTube. If you guys are joining us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Also, guys, if you are, I grabbed the wrong YouTube. That's the link to the channel. Well, make sure you follow also Scott's channel over on YouTube as well. If you're joining us on YouTube, obviously youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. He's dropping videos constantly. Maybe we'll get one here pretty soon about Aaron Rodgers fits or how Aaron Rodgers is going to take the Broncos to the Super Bowl. That would be very fun. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to do something like that. We'll get a lot of Rodgers content going on.
I'm digging through my archives too. I'm going to put up some Buda Baker high school film. I did Reuben Foster. I'm going to do Buda Baker later today and put him up there because some of these guys, when you say men against boys and you watch some of these players, and Buda wasn't all that big. He was 5'9", 185 pounds, and was still that good. So I'm going to put him up today. And then next week, I'm doing a best evers. I'm going to start a new series with some of the people I know in the business. Who's the best player you saw? Who's the best arm? All this kind of stuff. So doing some new stuff. I appreciate all of y'all, and I recognize 3 or 4 names a day that come through as new subscribers from that I see running through this chat. So thank you very much. Now to move on as possible replacements. Now let's get back to Bobby Massey and Dennis Kelly.
Yeah,
you got your choice of those two. They're affordable. Let's say you wanted to bring in a guy now, and you don't have to. We've established that. But so you want to do where do you go out of those two guys?
Personally, I would probably go with Dennis Kelly. He had a better year last year. Bobby Massey did not play many snaps. I know there's some familiarity with Bobby Massey and Vic Fangio, both in Chicago for a bit. And Bobby Massey could be fine out there. I do think he would be better than DeMar Dotson. But Dennis Kelly is the one I lean with. I know that he didn't give up any sacks last year, but I think that's a misleading stat. He gave up a decent amount of pressure still, and part of that is because of the offensive structure the Titans ran, right? Like you can't cheat if you're a pass rusher going up against Derrick Henry, because if you're leaning one lane a little too far, you're not playing with discipline and integrity. That lane is going to be busted open, and you got a freight train going through there. And also with Ryan Tannehill off the bootleg, but Ryan Tannehill also does tend to stay in the pocket, a little bit aggressive, a little bit greedy in that pocket. So I think Dennis Kelly is the way to go if you are looking for that. He seems like the most, as Mo says here, Dennis Kelly is the most obvious signing for the Broncos. So that's where I lean as well. That said, if you have confidence that a guy like Charles Leno can flip over to right tackle, he might be the one that I'm interested in because he's been so healthy. He's been solid there. He's not a difference maker at right tackle, but I don't think he's going to kill you if you are confident he can go over to right tackle.
I'm with you on this. For me, it was Dennis Kelly. And one of the questions in here, just tongue in cheek, knowing that I know the Falcons fairly well, was do they have an extra tackle? Well, that's interesting. And not just because there's a lot of synergies here between, coincidentally, right now everything's connected. So having someone that knows other parts of the league, in this discussion, to me makes it more interesting. I might be biased because, that's me, but doesn't mean I'm wrong. So no, the Falcons don't have any extra offensive tackles. In fact, that's where they need to build. Their offensive line has been subpar. So why not Dennis Kelly to his former team, or following his coach over from the Titans, where the Falcons just hired the offensive coordinator and head coach Arthur Smith, because the Falcons don't have any money.
Yeah,
that's why they have to find another $10 million just to sign this draft class. That's how bad their cap situation is. And Dennis Kelly's probably going to be $3 million, $4 million range, probably, and they can't afford that. They're just flat out. So. When I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, they had the number 2 rushing offense, didn't give up as many sacks, all this type of stuff. And getting back to your point, Nick, a lot of that is scheme because they run a lot of 2 tight end sets. Well,
yes.
Are the Broncos going to be a 4 wide run and shoot next year?
I mean, they have the wide receiver depth to do it. I don't know if they have the quarterback. Right? Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. So you need a guy that can move some people around and help establish that running game a little more. And I think Dennis Kelly is good for that. And I think that if the Falcons had any money, I think he'd be in Atlanta. Frankly, I think he'd go play for Arthur Smith again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. And somebody had a comment in here earlier saying whoever the Broncos' right tackle should be whoever Aaron Rodgers wants. So we were joking about that on Tuesday night. There's the Packers have already talked about the Broncos and the 49ers potentially tampering. Is it tampering if that quarterback directly reaches out to the team or those within the team? I don't know, right? I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to say I'm not going to talk to you if you reach out to me. I'm one of those guys. I won't leave you on read. But that's the kicker, man. If you can get through back channels like Rodgers, like, I think that Charles Leno guy, he can play right tackle. That's the guy I'd want. That might sway my decision a little bit. I mean, I know that's not the most ethical, but it's football. We're trying to win football games out here.
Basically, all that stuff works this way. I'm allowed to answer my own phone. Okay?
Yeah.
If they call me, I'm allowed to answer. I can't call you. Nick, why don't you come work for me? We're in the draft here. You're doing the Broncos stuff. I'm in Cleveland. I need you here. Let's go work with the NFL. If I've got a no tampering clause, I can't do that, but I can answer Nick if he calls me. So, yeah.
It's, I don't know. Maybe you can even have somebody like Peyton Manning working through the back channels there, kind of like, when Peyton was on the Broncos, he literally called Joe Thomas.
Re-established relationships is what we call it. There's an existing relationship there, so it's not tampering. And everybody knows everybody, so how do you enforce any of that stuff?
It's rough, but also if the Broncos end up getting Rodgers and they get caught with tampering and have to give up a 5th-round pick.
Great.
La-di-da. Awesome. Good, cool. Thank you for doing business.
Like a $20,000 fine to these guys making $30 million a year. So where do I sign?
Yep, absolutely. Where
do I send you the check?
In the Shop with Willie is saying the Broncos aren't getting Rodgers. Man, I don't want to fight you, Willie. Not today. It's too early. That's for the night shows, man. After I've had a full day of work, I'm still kind of getting groggy. I'm getting out of bed here, getting my coffee in my system. But speaking of morning time, we got Charlie Beagle coming in here saying, "Good Morning Football is showing us to be 26 in the power rankings. No respect." And then Gavin Hull coming in saying, "Good Morning Football hates us." And I kind of want to pivot off this as well. It's not just Good Morning Football, folks, that doesn't believe in this Broncos team. It's also Todd McShay. Scott and I had a little talk about it this morning, but Todd McShay dropped his 2022 mock draft 1.0, which is honestly, obviously, it's not about projecting where these guys are going to go. It's just kind of like, here's some guys who might be good players next year to keep an eye on. And also some fits and whatever, and where these teams might go. And unfortunately for us Bronco fans out there, he had the Broncos picking 9th overall, meaning that he also does not believe in this team. And he also had the Broncos selecting Spencer Rattler, quarterback out of Oklahoma, who I think right now is probably the most talented quarterback in next year's crop. There are some questions about the maturity and character. So that could drop him a little bit. I mean, you got to have your quarterback be a dude out there. You can't have an immature a-hole when you have the quarterback position. Even if you are talented, they got to be a man. So that's interesting. But I mean, it really speaks to, despite how good this roster is around the defense, the offensive line getting better, besides Juwan James off weapons, nobody believes in Drew Lock in the national media side of things. And until the Broncos have a quarterback, you're going to continue to see them ranked low because it's a quarterback-driven league.
I'll be frank with everybody here. It's nice. Everybody wants to hate on the media and these national guys. Yeah. But I try and give credit where credit is due. Recognize your own biases and compensate for them. I don't think Todd McShay is a very good evaluator of talent. Flat out. I don't think he's very good. I think he gives good TV. He looks good on TV. Nice haircut, good smile, nice suit. But his analysis and his scouting, I don't think are worth a damn. So, and I've thought that for 10 years, and I don't think he's gotten a lot better at it. So I wouldn't worry too much with Todd McShay. I actually think as a gatherer of information, I think Mel Kiper is much better. I think Mike Mayock was very good. I worked with him over at NFL Network and saw him talking about a lot of stuff and had some conversations with him. Mike Mayock was one of the best in the media business, which is a low bar, I know. Bucky Brooks, real good. Charles Davis, real good. There's some guys out there that I think are good, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Todd McShay is not one of those guys for me. Sorry. Just I wouldn't worry too much. If he says that the Broncos aren't going to be very good, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Not that any of it matters, but it wouldn't worry me.
I mean, last year or a couple years ago, nobody was thinking the 49ers would turn around. There's always a surprise team every year. And Drew Lock could take some big steps forward. We got Albert Knopper saying, let them hate. We'll see. You guys know that I am a skeptic. I try not to be a hater, but I am definitely a skeptic when it comes to Drew Lock because I believe in probabilities and data and what I've seen so far. What Drew Lock's issues have been in college that had him fall to the second round. Haven't seen him get better. They're still out there. And so, and in a league where turnovers are dropping at a crazy rate, you have a quarterback who's turning over the football like it's candy at Halloween. You can't have it. But we'll see. And obviously, this changes a lot if the Broncos get Aaron Rodgers. So, Scott, I actually want to pivot to you. You want to do the hosting. I feel like I'm just kind of, because I'm running the chat here and whatnot. We need to get you access to pull up the chats. But I want to pivot this to you because this isn't a Broncos-specific question, but more of a fit-specific question. It sounds like if the Aaron Rodgers trade is going to happen, it's going to be to an AFC team, and he does want a team in west of the Mississippi, West Coast, but I'm going to go west of the Mississippi here. Are there any teams here that you believe make sense or could give a better bid than the Broncos right now? Vegas is saying that Packers are number one, but it's Broncos and Raiders, and the Raiders have a better quarterback, yes. Mm-hmm. But on paper, man, this Broncos team is so much better. It's because of that quarterback position you see them ranked lower.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it right now, for me, the bar is the Matthew Stafford deal. Okay, with 2 first-round picks and a quarterback with a decent track record. He's been up and down, but Jared Goff, former number 1 overall, has had success in the league. What's he worth? He's worth it, at least a second or third. If Sam Darnold's worth a second round, for goodness sakes, and Jared Goff is probably worth. But so you're looking at 3 first-round picks probably in order to get Aaron Rodgers. So when we talk about what's it going to take to get him, or could you make a trade? And I don't think. It depends on what Green Bay really feels about Jordan Love, because Derek Carr in a trade would be interesting. That would be interesting if you're Green Bay, because Derek Carr's a good quarterback. So if I get 2 number 1s and Derek Carr, maybe that's a better deal. But you look at the Chargers. No, that's not where they're going. Seahawks, no. That's NFC anyway. That's a pretty good rival, so to speak. But that
would be fun though. A Russell Wilson for Aaron Rodgers swap, just for the chaos of it, just straight up swap. I mean, send him back to Wisconsin. It won't happen.
I was going to say that kind of happened, in so to speak, when Russell Wilson comes out of NC State and goes to Wisconsin. Yeah. So that would be a homecoming for him. Oakland. I'm going to call them Oakland for the rest of my life. They'll probably end up back in Oakland. I'm old enough to remember when they were the Oakland Raiders, before the LA Raiders, back to Oakland, all that stuff. So they're always the Oakland to me. I'll just start saying the Raiders. I don't think it's Kansas City. No. Houston, they got their own problems right now at quarterback, and they're not a contender. Aaron Rodgers is going to want to go someplace where he can win. I mean, that's what you've earned that right at this point. Right, Peyton Manning? You've earned that right to go play for a contender. So, who else is out there? Who else is even really a possibility that makes any sense if meeting that criteria?
It's not the AFC. I mean, on paper, I think Washington football team would be an interesting pairing, just because of
nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to play for that owner, though. I mean,
Dan Snyder. I agree.
What free agents are really going to have really gone to Washington in lately that are, I don't know. I mean, he's got his choice. Nobody chooses to go to Washington right now.
Yeah. New York Giants are another one. Daniel Jones is somebody who's been struggling. But again, we're talking NFC teams right now. If you're limited to the AFC, this is a weird situation because a lot of the AFC teams have their young quarterback, right? Like the Broncos are one of the few who do not have that young rookie quarterback. The Browns have Baker Mayfield. Ravens have Lamar Jackson.
If they're good, they probably already have a quarterback, and you want to go someplace that's good.
True, but that's what's interesting about this Broncos team, and it's kind of like Tampa Bay last year as well. Like they obviously had the weapons in place. They had a good defense. The offensive line was ascending, and you drop Jameis Winston, the turnover machine, for a guy like Tom Brady coming in here, and bang, you're winning the Super Bowl. So it's kind of like also the Broncos the year before Peyton Manning came in. So I really think this Broncos team, the people are sleeping on the weapons and the offensive structure in general because of A, they were so young last year, and B, the quarterback play was that bad last year. It neutered the rest of the team.
All right. Well, I did a sort on, and I can share my screen and show everybody here. because I'm like, all right, let's look at defense. And I'm on ESPN here. So I'm going to share my screen. And then Nick has to share it with you. But let's look at this.
Zoom in a little bit if you would, because it's so small. If you can.
How do I zoom?
Let's just read it. It's fine.
Okay, here we go. We can see it. But Pittsburgh, that might make a little bit of sense. But when I start going down here, these are the top defenses. Baltimore Ravens, no. Colts.
No, they just spent all the capital for Wentz. They don't have the future picks to do.
So when I start going down here, you know who starts making sense? Patriots.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots makes sense. I'm like, where would one – if you were going to go play 2 seasons while they're getting, Mac Jones ready, who makes the most sense in the AFC right now to go play 1 or 2 seasons? It might be the damn Patriots. So.
That would be a real bummer. I would not be a big fan of that. And I'm against it. I'll just put that out there. I would not like that one bit. And that's one that kind of scared me a little bit as well. And he said, Charlie Beagle saying good morning football, even had the Eagles ahead of the Broncos. Well, I don't know about that, guys. Oh, and everybody's telling you how to do it. Control plus. Well, for next time, Scott, you know how to zoom in there. But that's fine. But yeah, man, I really think
thank you.
If this Broncos team does get a Rodgers, I think things can happen. I really think this team could be pretty special. I had a comment here from, it was saying the Broncos should not trade all that capital for Aaron Rodgers because it would be too much. Here we go. Mike Woodward over on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Mike. And also I see a couple comments here saying the super chats aren't working. I guess keep trying. Hopefully we'll figure that out. We'll let Chad know.
Yeah, thank you for trying.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really do appreciate it. Just in the all the eyeballs in here in general, the community, we appreciate you. Mike Woodward coming in here, 3 first-round picks plus a second and a young player probably duty for a 37-year-old quarterback. Nah, I am good, says Mike Woodward. What do you think about that? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, obviously coming off an MVP season, but he is 37 years old. You mentioned the Matt Stafford trade earlier. Matt Stafford is only 32. Sam Darnold is 24. He's actually younger than Drew Lock, which is crazy. So does that change the formula for what you can get or what you have to trade for a quarterback because of the age and the window that you get with them?
It's going to be expensive. Yeah. It's just going to be. Matt Stafford's. I almost look at them as not necessarily the same age, but the same mileage. Matthew Stafford has taken a freaking beating.
True.
A year in Detroit is worth 2 in Green Bay. And no offense to Lions fans, but I know what it's like to root for a franchise like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's even say it's 2 first-round picks. I understand that because I love scouting. I love the GM part of it. You have to ask yourself this question as a GM: Are we Aaron Rodgers away from a Super Bowl? If the answer is yes, you do it. You absolutely do it. If it's not, then you think, okay, it's not the right time. It's not the right fit. I can get 2 years, two maybe 3 years here. What's that worth? Is it worth a couple first-round draft picks, knowing that the hit rate on those guys is about 50% anyway, because there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get the right guy anyway. But if you've got the answer to that question, is it worth a couple first-round picks to get to the Super Bowl? If your answer is yes, if you think that's the difference, then yeah, absolutely it is.
And I really do think it's yes. And also a lot of people say, is it worth it to go give up all that capital? Well, is it worth it to waste this really talented defense and a young offensive core that is about to get paid as well down the line when you could go make a run right now? You have the cap space to plug in an Aaron Rodgers. There's risk either way, right? There's risk in inaction as well as action. So
you've got a window. You've got a window, and if you miss it, then you've got a lot more to rebuild, right? Yeah, as some of those your talented younger players start aging out, then you've missed that window. So if your window is now and it's one player, yes, you do what it takes to get this guy who's still arguably the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worth it, and it's not even a scheme guy. I mean, he may not run and throw like he used to, but he's not that far off of it either. I mean, it's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the history of the game. And yeah, I mean, again, ask yourself that question because I get it. I like having the draft picks too. I like having more draft picks. Mm-hmm. But if this is your window, do it. And this isn't like Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, you give up whatever it takes to get a player that's 25 with 3 Pro Bowls under his belt.
Yeah.
But this is we're taking our shot. And I think as fans, you'd understand it. Even if it didn't work out, you'd say, hey, we appreciate the fact that you guys went for it, that you went for it. Thank you. We support you. So, what's the risk there? Really, what's the risk there? For Aaron Rodgers, what's the risk?
Yeah, and I want to, Albert Knopper is pushing back a little bit over on Facebook over in the Netherlands. Thank you for joining us this morning. I guess this afternoon or evening for you over in the Netherlands there, Albert. But how many years do you have AR? 3, and then we start all over again. So what do you think about this? This is something that I've seen on Twitter, a little bit of concern. Broncos fan preemptively, I guess, concerned because they've seen what the post-Peyton Manning landscape means for a team or what it can mean for a team. And Peyton was brought in as a free agent versus giving up trade capital. So maybe even a little bit more concerning. Do you have any thoughts there as far as the long-term ramifications and if that should concern the Broncos fans in general?
Again, the question is are you one player away from a Super Bowl? When's the last time the Broncos won a Super Bowl?
2015.
Okay. So that was when they went, right? They didn't win. Did they win?
They won. That was the year that Cam Newton and the great defense. They tripped Cam Newton.
You guys get so many of them. It's like talking about the Lakers. So, see, when you're down here in the South, there are no Super Bowls. Is it worth 3, 4, and 12 seasons for a Super Bowl? Yeah, it is. It is. So again, what's it worth to you? What's the risk there? Does your team totally go in the tank because you lost 3 first-round draft picks? Well, now you've got more free agent money. You're coming off a Super Bowl, so you're a more attractive destination. Mm-hmm. You've got some. You start getting those Patriots free agents where guys are taking half the money to come play for a Super Bowl.
Or the Buccaneers this last year, they kept everybody like, they don't have any cap room. Everybody came back because they wanted to play and they wanted a chance with a ring and they wanted to be a part of that good thing. And when you have a good quarterback, Mike Woodward coming in here again, I don't think we're one player away personally.
Well,
that is a good question. Mm-hmm. But I will push back. If there's any team that is one player away or one position, it's the quarterback because no other positions can overcome weaknesses on a roster like a good quarterback. People get upset about the Broncos offensive line constantly. Broncos offensive line last year was more talented and better than any of the offensive lines Peyton Manning had his entire career with the Broncos. But it didn't matter because Peyton Manning was that good of a quarterback and good quarterbacks can overcome those weaknesses. So, that's the biggest thing there are we one player away? If that player is a Hall of Fame quarterback, you bet. You bet. I mean, that's the beauty of a good quarterback. The Chiefs last year, I know they got throttled in the Super Bowl because that offensive line was so injured, but they got there with a terrible offensive line, not a lot of wide receiver depth, okay at best defense. Honestly, let's call it as it is. They schemed up really well and they played well because they're able to play with the lead a lot of times, but talent-wise, depth-wise, not that good. But if you have a quarterback, you can cover up hole after hole after hole. Eventually, it can get you. But that's the one position where if you are one player away, they can overcome many weaknesses. Other positions can't do that. That's how valuable the quarterback is.
And Charlie Beagle has a good question. Would you suffer for 5 years for every Super Bowl win? You want to guarantee me a Super Bowl win every 6 years? Yeah. Probably. With football, with baseball being down here with the Braves, who went through that, they Buffalo Billed it for 15 years. It's different. I don't mind that they didn't necessarily do it in the playoffs because there's 162 games. I got to watch 162 games of good baseball before they went and stepped on their whatever you want to call it in the playoffs. With football, it's 1 day a week. It's 16 games, 17 games now. And to rebuild on that, and the draft means more. If you give all those draft picks away, but a 4-12 isn't nearly as painful as it is in baseball when you're going 60-100. That's just bad baseball. So this is, again, these are hypothetical and that's extreme. Do the Broncos fall off a cliff because they lose 3 first-round draft picks? No, they don't.
Especially because they'll be late first-round draft picks, all likelihood. Let's say you lose out on Bradley Roby, Derek Wolfe, who I know was a second, but you traded back and got him, and Shane Ray, and Derek Wolfe was a hit, but you're not guaranteed a hit. We know we talk about these guys, but they're all projections. You're talking about late first round picks, and then you hit a good point here. You can supplant those first round picks with veterans who want to come here and take less. Mm-hmm. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, he was literally in the Chiefs facility about to sign a contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he gets a call from the Broncos saying, wait a second, I can go play with Peyton Manning? I'm going to go take less to go catch balls from that guy. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to be here in KC. I mean, I can go catch balls from Peyton Manning and make more money later on because I'm in a good situation. I'm a dependent position, and I'm only going to be as good as my quarterback. So, it's something to say. It's something to say. And I got to get this one here real quick from William coming in here. William Catalano. I dislike the Cubs. Oh, man, what's going on with my lights? I dislike the Cubs because I'm a Cardinal fan. You and I both. I think Scott here is a Braves fan. Is that correct? You're down in Georgia. I'm just making an assumption.
I'm a lifelong Atlanta sports fan. I've been here since I was 5 years old. So Atlanta, everything for me with professional sports is how I grew up. But again, as I've gotten older and suffered for 40 plus years, I'm not nearly as passionate about it from a fan standpoint. And frankly, being an Atlanta sports fan means you had to pay attention to everything else. That's part of the reason I do what I do. It's because our teams are usually out of it by the third week of the season.
Yeah. And Mike is dropping some heat here, and I just like it because I like to be a little bit of a maybe curmudgeon's the wrong word, but pushback. He says that a lot of good comments here, Mike. We appreciate it. It's the age of AR and the draft capital we would give up for a very small window for success. Well, you know what? You know what has a really small window? Defenses. Defenses historically are one of the most fragile things in football because they're so dependent on depth. You need a bunch of guys in that sweet spot of age, like 24 to 28 years old. They need to be healthy. They need to be under contract. Good defenses typically have a window of 1 to 2 years. And this Broncos team has a defensive window right now of 1 to 2 years. You plug in Rodgers right now with this defense, you can do some things. But I know people are talking about the small windows of success, but I see a lot of people also turn right around and say, we need to build a defensive identity football team. Well, guess what? If you're worried about windows of success, don't come at me with talking about building a defense because that is fragile. If you want to contend and compete year after year, number one is quarterback. And I know the window for Rodgers is small in comparison, but you could get 4 to 6 years from Rodgers. I really truly believe that. I do believe that. And people in the comment section were saying that, well, Rodgers is 37, but he didn't play until he was 26 because he sat for 3 years, taking less hits because of that, less bullets from the arm.
Comparison, that I made between Stafford and Rodgers. I think Stafford's got more mileage than Aaron Rodgers, just from how long he's been playing, and similar times and just vastly different programs, franchises that, and that takes years off your life playing in Detroit. Why do you? I mean, 2 of the best all-time players in the history of this game retired early. Yeah, playing in Detroit. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Oh, man, Detroit. They have the best uniforms. Not the best, but I love those Hawaiian blues, man. I wish they could do a little bit better. And it does seem like if Rodgers is leaving, the Packers might actually have to taste a little bit of quarterback mediocrity, which they haven't had since 1993, 1994. When was Brett Favre starting for the Packers? I don't even know. That was not the age you, Scott, but the first football game I remember was Super Bowl 32 with Elway versus
I think the Falcons traded him in 92. Okay. So I think he started in 92. They got he was the first pick in the second. He was like the Falcons' first pick in the second round in 1990, I believe. And so he was like the 36 overall, and they still got it. He hadn't played, and they still got a first round draft pick for him. Unfortunately, they turned it into a running back named Tony Smith, who you've never heard of, from Southern Miss, and he finished his career with about 350 yards from scrimmage. And as you go back and Pro Football Reference, the reference pages are really good, and you can look at the Hall of Fame players by year, and it's got all their career stats. And that was Steve Entman's year getting drafted, I believe. There's not a Hall of Famer in that first round. It was a crap draft. So getting back to the first round picks and what are they worth? Well, they're not all worth the same. Real quick, while Nick's checking something out, making sure he's got everything, a couple of YouTubers I want to say thank you to. Jeremy, I saw your subscription come through, and Tommy, I saw your follow came through yesterday. So every bit of that helps. I'm climbing towards 1,000. When I get to 1,000, then I can start monetizing that channel and start doing more fun things. So I get lots of views, but the subscribers are the hard part. So everyone that I get helps a lot. So thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, and I just dropped it in the chat as well, and I was letting Chad know that the super chats are apparently down today, but or at least this morning. So I don't know, but it's not a big deal. And we got Jeremy saying, "Scott, my pleasure."
I watched your Star Wars interview from a couple years ago. Very cool. Very cool.
May the 4th be with you. Are you a big Star Wars nerd? I feel like we did talk on the 4th. I know a lot of people going around right now, like if you had to pick one, Marvel, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Star Wars, a lot of people would pick Star Wars. I'm honestly a big nerd. I'm a J.R.R. Tolkien fan. Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones was my stuff as well when that was going on. Where are you at in the debate of the nerds?
It's hard for me. I was 4 years old when Star Wars came out, so that leaves a big impression.
Yeah.
When you're a kid. And but the other part of that, I kind of joked about his. I said, all of you people that made fun of us for playing Dungeons and Dragons in middle school that are Game of Thrones fans, apology accepted. Like, what do you think it is? What do you think Dungeons and Dragons was? This was it, and now you're all fans of Game of Thrones. Yeah, we get it, we understand. So yeah, I didn't really fit in anywhere because I was like an athlete nerd. Stanford, I guess.
Here we are right now talking football, draft football, talk about the biggest nerds there are out there talking football. But we appreciate the nerds out here. And we got Ann coming in here saying, Scott, I subscribe to your channel. I love the content. Tommy saying you need capital behind for sure. And we got Josiah Hicks coming in saying, hi, guys. Everybody joining us now. We're going to be here. If you guys are joining the morning show, Broncos for Breakfast, we're going to be back next Tuesday again at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. So make sure you join us. I got a question here from Peter Middleton saying Freeman to be traded or just released. This is a Bronco specific question. So Scott's still getting onboarded with the Broncos country stuff going on here. He's got the draft stuff down. He's got the Falcons stuff down in general NFL, but not as in tune with the overall Broncos roster, especially a 4th string running back. So Freeman to be traded or just released.
Royce Freeman.
Yes, Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman was I watched Royce Freeman in high school. He's old enough that he was one of my guys coming out. He was a beast. I mean, he was that guy. He was that guy in high school, 230 pounds, wrecking ball. He was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where I wish I could just sit him down and be like, hey, Royce, you are a big dude. You don't need to try to bust everything outside. Like you're not a scat back. Play big. If you can, there's a niche for you in the NFL.
He ended up at Oregon, didn't he? Didn't he end up at Oregon?
Yes.
Yeah, I blame Oregon. He had so much space that he, going between tackles, he usually was only facing one guy. So he could go this way. So, and Ann, thank you. I saw you your comment on the subscribe, and Nick got rid of that one too quick. Reese, thank you very much for subscribing. But I blame Oregon for that. They ruined DeAnthony Thomas too, the black Mamba. So by making him an offensive player, man, I always said, I don't know how many of y'all remember DeAnthony Thomas. He's one of the best football players I ever saw. Period. 160 pounds. One of my favorite things was watching him show up to 7-on-7s, and he had this aura already around him. He was basically a legend since he was in 8th grade. Yeah, he'd show up to these 7-on-7s. And people that I knew from around the country, they'd be there and they'd see this little skinny kid, 5'8", 160 pounds, kind of come up. And they go, that's it? That's it?
That's the dude?
Just give it a minute. Just give it a minute. And then by, the second game, they'll come over like, Scott, I get it. I get it now. But I was like, if I was his dad or his agent, I would have demanded that he played corner. I would have demanded that he played cornerback because he was so good on defense and such an athlete. Anyway.
That's where the money is, right? That's
where he was going to be at his size, not necessarily a slot receiver. And they used him. It's like, if I'm a coach, if I'm Chip Kelly, I want him as a running back where I can get him the ball. But if I'm looking out for his long-term future and where he's going to be the most effective for the next 15 years, it would have been as a DB and return man. But neither here nor there. And
I wanted to get to this comment here from where'd it go? Desmond Turner coming in over on Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Desmond. Do you believe the Broncos should have picked up a quarterback in the draft? And Desmond, this maybe will get some people in the chat upset with me or going either way. But if I was sitting in that GM chair with George Payton, Broncos' first 2-round picks, and let's say exactly where they would have picked. Obviously, they traded up in the second round, and I think they would have had to trade up for the guy in the second round. But I probably would have taken Justin Fields at 9.
You wouldn't have been able to, though.
Because you would have traded up?
No, I would have grabbed him at 4.
Okay. All right. well, just Broncos specifically, how it fell beforehand. Let's say I can
if
mind
we're
control.
Running drafts. He's Broncos on Falcons. You wouldn't have been able to get Justin Fields at 9 because I would have taken him at 4.
Well, I would have taken Justin Fields at 9 if he was available. And then I would have taken Tevin Jenkins with the Broncos' second round pick because I think he's a great scheme fit. And I did not trust Juwan James as far as I could throw him. Now, it's really unfortunate this happened, and the Broncos season isn't tanked because their right tackle, who hasn't played in 2 years, essentially is gone. But I would have not probably traded up for a running back, and I would have taken that offensive lineman because I philosophically believe that if you want to invest in the run game, you invest in the offensive line first. Running backs, they don't last very long, but if you want to invest premium resources in the run game, it's about the offensive line. But that's just me. I'm really happy to have Javonte Williams. I'm excited about Patrick Surtain. Don't get it twisted at all. 2 fantastic players. I hope they're great Broncos. And that formula changes a heck of a lot if the Broncos bring in Aaron Rodgers. That changes everything. But thank you for the question, Desmond. I mean, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I was a big Justin Fields fan. I was a big Trey Lance fan too. I would have been happy with either of those guys, but it is what it is. And, sometimes you just got to be happy with whatever you get, but sometimes you got to be extremely grateful about what you get. And Mike Given, speaking about giving, coming in here with the $10 super over on YouTube.
Name, or is that a screen name? Is that
either way, I love it.
Your real name? It's not just my name. It's a philosophy. Well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike, for dropping the $10 super there, keeping the lights on. Chad is still, I got to wake up early, make the stream, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, the people like the show. We got the comments in here, we got the engagement, we got the supers. Chad, if these are coming, we're gonna stick around here. Oh, and we got one here. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Scott, real quick. Anna Rivera actually putting you on the spot, but I'm gonna put it to you. Spencer Brown or Tevin Jenkins? I know you loved Spencer Brown, but
you know where I'm going with this, and this is a familiarity type thing. I've seen a lot more of Spencer Brown than Tevin Jenkins, so that would be a safer pick for me. So I would take Spencer Brown, but that's more about what I know about Spencer Brown than what I know about Tevin Jenkins. So I would go that way with Spencer Brown. And you know what I want to do real quick, and we don't have to go all the way through it again because some people are going to rewind and rewatch, but there's some people that have come in a little late that are talking Juwan James.
Yes.
And I want to hit that again. And we talked a little bit about the options there. And, that the NFL did come out with a memo saying that, they have every right not to pay him for sure. You're right. You're right. And I think Nick, and see if you agree with me here, but I think there's going to be some sort of settlement there. I don't think it'll just be a straight cut. I think there'll be some sort of settlement. Mm-hmm. And as Nick has said, talk about the PR standpoint. I don't want to take your point.
Well, it would be interesting if, let's say this happened to, who's somebody who's been on the Broncos team for a while that the team loves. That's not like an amazing player, but somebody that the locker room would stand up for. Maybe somebody like Josie Jewell, right? Like he's been there. He's been working hard. He's been a 4th round pick, not a high investment. But let's say Josie Jewell coming on the last year of his contract gets injured out of the facility. Then I think you would see more. And let's say if he was getting paid similar to Juwan James, that would be maybe a different conversation for how little he's getting paid as a 4th round pick. But still, Josie Jewell's been there. He's been working hard, et cetera, et cetera. Does not sound like this locker room fully believes in Juwan James, right? Like we had Garrett Bowles coming outright and saying that if he's going to be back here next year, he has to re-earn the trust of everybody in this locker room.
That's damning, Nick.
That is damning.
That's about as harsh a statement as you will ever hear teammate to teammate ever.
Yep.
So that says
especially from an offensive lineman. I mean, offensive linemen, those guys are just in their core like protectors, and they're going to even if it's, they're not going to spout off like a cornerback or a wide receiver being a diva, right? They're a little bit more stoic. And if they say something like that, pay attention. I mean, really, they're typically have fewer words. So that's a big deal. Also with Juwan James, there's been a cantankerous relationship with this team and him as well. They were heading for a mutual divorce at the end of the season anyway. Juwan James sounds like he didn't trust the Broncos medical staff because of what happened in 2019, where they medically cleared him and Juwan James said he wasn't 100%. And then it got uglier from there and out in the public where the Vic Fangio said he was physically ready, but not mentally ready. And that led to some hurt feelings as well. So I think in a lot of situations, I would be more pro player. But in this one, especially with how much Juwan James has already made, the situation at hand, the Broncos have a lot of outs and a lot of leverage, both with the fan base, the NFL, et cetera, where they can lean the other way. There will be some sort of settlement. I think he's going to be on the books until that settlement is passed, and maybe it would make sense for the Broncos to wait until June 2nd to do it, to split that prorated signing bonus over 2 years instead of one. I think it would be $9 million against the cap this year, but it could be 4.5 and 4.5 if they wait until June 2nd. So those are all things you have to think about as well. But there's a lot of teams and players that are putting pressure on the Broncos and the union to get this right. But I think You don't hear it from the Broncos. The Broncos players right now, Justin Simmons, Shelby Harris, these are guys who are pretty active on social media. They're not rushing to the defense of Juwan James. And I think that silence speaks volumes. I really do.
It's basically, you're not part of this team. Goodbye. I mean, it's harsh, but that's almost what it sounds like. And Clinton Reisig says it sounds like a blessing that Juwan James was injured. You don't want anybody to get injured, but no, from a spreadsheet standpoint, yeah, this is about as good him taking himself out of the equation. It's almost like him retiring, which we've talked a little about Aaron Rodgers. If he just walks away, I'm like, I don't think he would do that. That would do Green Bay a huge favor. It's almost like Juwan James retiring, because then you're not obligated. You get the cap money back. You get them, all of those things that, and you can, and on the top of that, you get to stick it to the union too. I mean, the NFL is, I would say they're doing backflips about this, but they sent out that memo saying that they don't have to pay him, and that was a direct shot at the union saying, we want these guys that are facilities working out so we can keep an eye on them. That's not out of the that's not unrealistic.
Yep, and this is a part of the CBA that the players union, the NFLPA, negotiated as well, right? Like, they don't have a clause in there where players can be compensated if they are injured out of sight. If that was something that they were concerned about, guess what? They should have negotiated in the last CBA. I mean, it sucks, but it's reality.
The worst union in professional in American professional sports. It really is. It's the worst. I mean, the fact that you've got non-guaranteed contracts in a sport where these guys risk their health. I mean, period. I mean, it's the most brutal, violent game with the shortest shelf life. And unfortunately, you've got it's what happens when you've got a government-backed monopoly. But that's a different conversation.
That sounds like a mid-July conversation for covering a football team. We got Dennis Woods coming in here. He said earlier he was going to hop off this afterwards and subscribe to your channel, Scott. So another one, got him in. Dennis Woods with the $5 supers over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Dennis. And thank you for contributing to the chat and keeping the lights on in here. I know mine have been flickering here in the background. What's going on?
You could tell that the supers were going down. There was a problem because Nick was losing power. I'm in sunny Georgia here, so I got solar. So we're a little better, I guess.
See, I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, and they always say it's like rainy.
What's the sunshine?
Well, they say that. I really think it's people that are up here that don't want more people to move up here. So it's like that. It's smart. Like people in Colorado know what I'm talking about.
It's smart. It's not working here in Georgia. We've got the national media saying that this is the worst place in the United States and maybe possibly the world. Yet California and New Yorkers are flocking to Metro Atlanta right now. It's crazy. It's like, guys, it's terrible. We're scooping COVID victims out of the street here. We're all dying. Stay where you are. Don't move here. They are.
Careful of that word there, because Chad will be upset. We don't want to get demonetized for throwing out the C word, as Carl's daughter calls it here, the sick little bug. But we got Dennis Woods coming in. We got to get to you, Dennis. You've been on the screen here for a bit. I'm glad I live in Eastern time, so you're there with Scott, so I can watch you guys at 10 instead of 8. LOL. Well, you guys will probably be maybe sometime down the track. We'll be talking about this and maybe even start a half an hour earlier, where I would be going live at 6:30 a.m. But out here in the Pacific Northwest, that means the sun is already up in the summertime. So that makes the most sense with the time and everything here. But Scott, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we get out of here? I'm going through the chat before we get out of here. But anything else? I mean, Rodgers, Juwan James, a lot of people in the chat coming here saying, keep the lights on. Awesome pod, Nick and Scott. And we keep talking a lot of Broncos here, talking about the CBA, et cetera, et cetera. The Broncos are in a good spot, guys. I mean, I know the Juwan James thing is a disappointment, and I want to reiterate before we get out of here, this sucks for him, and I wouldn't have wished this on him. The Broncos can save $10 million because of it, which is, I guess, good for the Broncos, but it probably would have been better. The best case scenario is Juwan James is healthy this year. He comes back and he plays like the guy who was going to get paid, right? Like the guy that they thought they were getting when they signed him. That would have been the best case scenario for the Broncos, just like it would be the best case scenario for the Broncos this year if Drew Lock emerges as a top 15 quarterback. Sometimes that's just not the reality. You hope the best situation will play out, but you got to prepare yourself for possible outcomes like this. So it's unfortunate, and I feel bad for Juwan James as far as the injury, because having to rehab an Achilles injury, God bless, right? Like that is not good. But is what it is. This is the reality now, and you have to be able to deal with this adversity. So here we are. The Broncos will pivot, and we'll figure out where they go from here. But they'll try to make the best case of an unfortunate scenario. But there's been a lot of vitriol and some toxicity thrown out to Juwan James, and I get it, given the contract he got and everything that's been surrounding him. But still, it sucks for him, and I think that's number one. I don't wish injuries on anybody. An Achilles injury, that just sucks. Just think about him as a human for a second.
Well, and you could ask at this point, how bad does he still want to be in the game? Really, how bad does he still want to play? And if you look at career earnings, it's $35 million.
Yeah.
So he's made $35 million. He's 28 years old. You can come do my Achilles for $30 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean it's unfortunate, and this is a livelihood, but he's going to be all right. One way or another, he's going to be okay. But I think the ramifications of this, you're going to see. This is going to be one of those rule changes type of things where the players union can't have this. They just can't have this. And all these guys work out on their own. All of them. They all work out on their own. And they work out hard in the off season, so I've got to think there's some sort of insurance for them. There just has to be. You can't say that. I mean, you can tear a pec in a minute. You can pull a muscle. You can do something. It's going to put you out for a year, and I'm gonna lose my job for trying to be better at my job. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and if it wasn't everything else surrounding Juwan James, we might be having a different conversation right now. But it's the reality that we're in, and I want to get to this comment here from Johnny Tao coming in here. Tao. Oh, great. One offensive tackle already got injured. Can you imagine the response of Aaron Rodgers playing behind a line that won't give him enough time to throw the ball? Well, the Broncos offensive line didn't have Juwan James at all last year, and they were a league average offensive line. They're bringing back essentially everybody. And also, there's this narrative out here, and it's a false narrative, that Drew Lock was running for his life last year. And if he just had time, he would be better. Drew Lock last year in plays where it was 2.5 plus seconds or 3 plus seconds in the pocket, worst quarterback rating in the NFL. So maybe more time isn't great for him, because then he has more time to think, and he tends to overthink and make the wrong decision. I mean, it's just, that's the data. That's the data. I'm sorry. That's what it says. You can hate it, but that's where we're at. Drew Lock, when he had time, worst quarterback in the NFL. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And, if you see a quarterback at this level drop back, set his foot and throw, it's a completion 99% of the time. First read, throw in rhythm 99% of the time. So what you're saying is, if his first read isn't there, he's in trouble. Then it's if his first read isn't there, if he doesn't hit his first read, then he's in trouble. That's bad. That's real bad, because every quarterback in the league can hit his first read, every one of them. And so that's what makes the difference. It's going through the list. Can you come off your first read, do your second read, do your third read, and then what do you do? And it sounds like second and third reads, he's the worst QB in the NFL. That's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign. And
then everything surrounding Drew Lock, where Tony Pauline came out and said that his words, Pat Shurmur had to dumb down the playbook. And then even some of the most ardent Drew Lock supporters said Drew Lock is not known as the quickest learner. I mean, these aren't things you want to be hearing about your quarterback, even if you are a supporter. So, it stinks. And do you think some of the blame falls on the Broncos receiver corps? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a team that didn't get the OTAs last year. They're a young unit. They didn't have chemistry. There's plenty of blame to go around. But, the head of the snake, right? It's the quarterback position. You get way too much credit when your team's good, and you get way too much criticism when your team's bad. But if you don't have it, good freaking luck. We'll see you next year.
And I'll be interested to see some of the all 11 film that I watched this year on the Broncos, because I've seen teams where the first read isn't there, and then the quarterback didn't know what to do, and then you look at the all 11, and all four guys are running verticals. Like, where's he supposed to go with the ball? Yeah. So, so can some of the blame be on the receivers? Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Pat Shurmur as well.
I'm looking forward to diving more into that, as we move forward with this, with Broncos for Breakfast.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, I got to get to the 9 to 5, so we appreciate everyone in here. We love y'all. That's going to do it for the Building for Broncos podcast. There we go. Chad keeps moving these things around. He's doing all that Colt stuff now as well, so too much going on here, but we appreciate you guys for Building the Broncos. We're going to be back again Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. We will be here also. I will be here on the 18th of Tuesday, but Scott, I'm gonna lean on you that day, because I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be coming back from a backpacking trip that Monday before, hiking out 14 miles on that Monday.
I bet there's something we can carry for 4 days worth of news. Shoot, Aaron Rodgers could be a Denver Bronco by then.
Absolutely, and we'll be good. We'll be fine. June 2nd, set your clocks, guys. That's when it's going to happen. But we'll be here that Tuesday, even though I'm going to be looking like, I'm going to need like a coffee drip at that point in my veins. But we appreciate everyone coming in and saying, thanks, Nick. Good show. Thanks, boys, coming in here. Thumbs up from Saku. Great show, guys, from Ann Rivera. You guys can find us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH, and you can find me at Nick Kendell MHH, Scott at Scout Kennedy MHH. Guys, also make sure you check out Scott's YouTube channel. I'm going to drop it in the comments section here. I'm going to pull it up on the banner as well. He's trying to get to 1,000 subs here. We're getting close. If you've enjoyed the show at all, if you've been enjoying Scott's banter and just content in general, his opinions, please go check out his channel, subscribe. It can do him a heck of a lot of good. It can do us a heck of a lot of good. If you guys are supporting us, well, then go support Scott. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah, because I'm gonna grab Nick and we're gonna start talking international football over on my channel. So Chad can't complain. I'm ready to start talking. I'm ready to start talking some Champions League, EPL, Euros, all of it. I love that stuff. So I'm ready.
Honestly, we should like Twitch, play some FIFA, and like just talk football while playing some FIFA. I mean, that's what Twitch essentially is, right? That's what it's become, and that's a really fun medium. Guys, if you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share to our show as well at Mile High Huddle. Go check us out on YouTube. Go check us out and follow us on Twitter. If you're joining us on Facebook today, please click those thumbs up. The heart reacts. I see we got a wow react in here from Kevin McClay over on Facebook as well. Those can do us a heck of a lot of good. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the kind comments too in here, guys. If we didn't get to you, join us again next Tuesday. Obviously, if you hit us with a super, we're 100% going to get to you. It flashes on our screen. It's like we're like a bug or a fly to the fly catcher or whatever the heck it is, the little buzz light, right? We're not going to miss you if you super, but if we missed you today and you didn't super, join us again next Tuesday. We're going to try to get to everybody. It's not just the supers that we want to interact with. You don't just have to pay to play, right? This isn't college football. No, I'm just kidding. But we appreciate all of you guys. We're going to get out of here. God bless, stay safe, and go Broncos.